It's always nice to be able to go to one's camera store and take delivery of a new camera. And I have yet to make a video about doing that because never before has it been quite as exciting and such a game changer as this particular one. Now, I'm not sponsored by Sony. I pay full retail price for all my camera equipment. And I moved to Sony in 2014, I think it was, from Canon. I had a Canon 5D Mark III, wonderful camera. And before that I had a 5D Mark II, which was magnificent. And what was amazing about it is that you could shoot with a full frame camera amazing quality video. Quality better than video cameras, 5 times the price. Before that, still today, I consider my shoot in Angola and Namibia and Botswana on the Search of the Okavango some of my very, very best work. And I was using a Sony EX3 camera, and it was a video camera. But then along came these still cameras that could shoot video quality so much better that it was a no-brainer to move to still cameras to shoot really good video. In terms of the picture quality, they're fantastic. But in terms of the ergonomics of actually using a still camera for video, they don't work very well at all. And so up till this point, I just couldn't afford not only the expense, I mean, because really high quality video cameras that'll give you better quality or as good quality as the best still cameras shooting video, were so expensive and also very big, very bulky. And because I travel a lot, I've got to keep my kit light, small, convenient. And the camera that I have now not only ticks that box, but also ticks the cinema line box. Sony have a range of cameras that they call cinema line, and they call it cinema line because it's not a still camera. It's a different department that make video cameras and still cameras, and the overlap is that they both shoot video. Sony have just come up with this new camera that combines the best of a camera that I actually ordered in August. It's now December. I ordered it. It's called the Sony A7S3. Now I went from Canon, shooting mainly shooting videos, but also shooting stills, to Sony because of this camera. This is the Sony A7S, the first in the S line. And the reason why I moved over was because its low light capability was extraordinary.
The A7S, of course, is marvelous in low light. We all know that. Well, why is marvelous in low light nice? Apart from the fact that you can shoot in low light, which is the obvious one. This morning, it's pretty dark out, very, very early in the morning. This is the Normandy beaches. I'm doing a documentary here. And I've been able to shoot at first light, at first light, which would have been impossible for the Canon. The wonderful thing about low light is that when you're shooting, normally you would be, cranking up the Canon's ISO and shooting fully open, whereas here you don't have to shoot fully open. So I shot a talk-to camera this morning and I needed depth of field, but there was very little light. A Canon, it would have been wide open or nothing at all. This, I shut it down to 5.6, had the depth of field I needed, no problem at all.
Unbelievable. Not just a bit better than everybody else. It was a game changer. It was so good. And also shot HD video. And I am now, for the last year and a half, been using the A7 III follow-up to this A7 line. They have a number of different cameras. I won't go into the details now. But that camera, general purpose camera, gorgeous quality, 4K. and I wanted to go 4K. I don't have any desire to go 6K or 8K, although I suppose in some ways it would be nice to shoot 8K because then you could crop in and you would have a little bit of latitude when filming, particularly filming with one camera and doing lots of jobs. You know, one person, one camera, one crew. It would be nice, but it was not something that I had to have. I had to have in my list was full frame, 4K, and a high frame rate. When I say high frame rate, at least double. At least, in other words, slow motion at half speed. At the very least, half speed. And a few companies were making them. Panasonic was making one. But the thing is here, I've got this set of Sony lenses. Somebody said to me, I think very apt, he said, you marry your lenses. But in terms of the camera body, yeah, you just have affairs with them. You kind of, you know, use them, love them, not love them. You know, they're temporary in nature. Whereas you marry your lens system. The Canon system, they were so far behind in mirrorless. And the difference here is that with mirrorless, in other words, if I open the lens, you'll see the actual CCD. There's no mirror. In other words, this bit here that I look through is electronic. It's an electronic viewfinder, EVF. And so therefore, I can see what I'm filming precisely. With a mirrored single lens reflex camera, you actually cannot do that. And so you have to tell it to, they call it live view, and on the back here is your image, and you have to attach a loop to be able to use it well. And that was a big disadvantage, or certainly a massive advantage of mirrorless. And Canon was slow to catch up to the mirrorless. Sony has led the way in mirrorless. Canon are catching up fast with mirrorless, very fast. In fact, some might even say they've caught up. I'm not sure about that, but it's certainly a great race. Panasonic, Canon, and Sony. But I have the Sony lenses. And when the A7S III was announced with 120 frames per second, full 4K, no pixel binning, and all of the quality boxes ticked, I thought A7S III, and I ordered it. And still, I'm waiting for it. And was told today in the camera store when I collected this, expect another 3 months wait. The reason why the wait is so long is that they're selling so many of them, they cannot keep up with production. And I think that Sony was surprised as much as anybody. And they got the recipe right. I think they got the recipe right. And then came this camera. And basically the two departments in Sony, the video department doing cinema line cameras, and the still camera department doing the Alpha series, collaborated and created a video camera. It's not a still camera, it cannot take still pictures.
We were kind of hoping you would open the box over here because we wanted to see what it looks like.
In the camera store, the guy said to me, please can you open it for us? We'd like to get a look of it before you take it away.
Small on the C70.
If I had still been married to Canon, I probably would have considered this camera, the Canon C70. But I don't get this camera. So its form is that of a stills camera, but without an electronic viewfinder and not full frame. So I really don't understand the reason for this camera, because Canon makes some mirrorless cameras that are truly brilliant and far cheaper than this one. The thing is with video cameras is that you move around a lot to get your shot. Because whenever you're filming, generally speaking, unless you're doing a set piece drama, certainly my kind of work, it's always looking for shots. You're on the go, looking for images, looking for angles, looking for stories, looking for relativity. The story, something is happening relative to the story you're trying to tell. And therefore you're seeking out and you're looking for shots. And that is true no matter what camera you use. So that is the hand grip, and that has like, it's a bayonet mount. There you go. Now with a camera is a one piece of equipment that I will read the instructions for. So that'll plug in somewhere, but I have a feeling it actually plugs into the top part. That's what I'm guessing. You see, I was talking about form factor. With a still camera, when I'm filming with a still camera, I'm doing this. I might do this. If it's low down, I'll do this. But what if I want to get really low down? See, with a video form factor, it's far easier. You can put it on your shoulder, on a shoulder mount. You can't do a shoulder mount with that unless you have a great big rig. This is far more conducive to from the hip content gathering. All Sony's packaging is cardboard, no polystyrene or nasty plastics. Thank you for that, Sony. It's a little thing, but I think it's important. And that goes on there like that, pushes on like that. The quality is beautiful. Everything is so solid. So there it is. There. Also with still cameras, they're primarily for still photography. So the bits and pieces you get with them aren't quite as professional in terms of videographer. For example, here I've got a separate battery charger, and if I unplug that, I can now power the camera in a studio. So if I was doing a live show or something like that, I have a dedicated power supply. I can do that with a still camera, but you know, I have to get other bits and pieces to do that. And here, well, it's supplied with the camera. But the biggest single advantage of of buying a Sony Cinema-Line camera over their still camera is the software. Now, the autofocus systems in the still cameras, particularly in the new Sony, is astonishing. I mean, I've seen both actually Canon too, their eye tracking and things like this, they are amazing. I love the way this thing tracks my focus. I can walk straight in like this and it'll still hold focus as long as there's light on my face. I have been testing a stabilizing system with the camera. The camera records metadata on the video file of all the movements of the camera. And then you take it into Sony software and then it smooths it out, and it is really good. It's Christmas Eve and welcome to Perth summer. Summer's finally arrived. It arrived about 3 days ago, and it is, well, there's my little pool, and this is about the only time of the year where the pool actually has value. This is my now workshop. If you want to have a look at it. It is, I have to tell you, 40 degrees. But this has that, but it also has the color grading software. It has a thing called Cinetone, which is, with their Cinema-Line cameras, it's a preset in the camera where you can walk away with beautiful footage without having to do a lot of color grading in post-production. And I really like that idea. And in fact, I don't shoot with my other cameras in things like S-Log and things like that unless there is a particular demand. And yes, I know that my footage would look better if I used those profiles, but the amount of work in the edit suite doubles if not trebles. It's a lot of extra work, and so I don't use them a lot. I use them sometimes. Here I will use Cinetone most of the time. So here it is, all rigged up and ready to go. That is my standard lens. It's a 16 to 35 millimeter f2.8 lens. And the great part about having two separate audio inputs, I've got the one there, I can run and record simultaneously two separate soundtracks. So here I might have my radio microphone, and here I have my general microphone, and then when I'm in the edit I can choose what is the best, clearest track to use. So, and you can do that with a still camera, but it's complicated. You need a separate module, and it starts getting bigger, it starts getting more complicated. Yes, this is more complicated than a still camera. Oh yes, there's no question about it. It is more complicated, but it should give me very, very good results. And it's kind of also given me a little bit of a boost creatively, because I'm thinking, oh, what can I do with that? What stories can I tell? Where can I go? It's this, you know. And in fact, what I'm going to do, and one of the reasons why I bought it, is that I'm going to create a new course on befilmmaker.com, and that is to assist photographers, still photographers, getting into video. It's quite common these days, and while so many of the disciplines are similar with still photography and videography, there are some that are completely foreign to the still photographer, and unless they understand them, they'll get into the edit suite with a whole lot of material and just have absolutely no idea what to do with it, because the material is inadequate to tell a story, because they've come from a point of view of telling a story with a still image, and so the disciplines are very, very different. So that excites me too, so that I'm going to be starting to work on that project very, very soon. Well, this is the very first piece of footage I have with my new camera. I have just done a basic setting, and how am I looking? I wonder. See, again, I'm seeing differences between a video camera and a still camera. It has a tally light, a little red light on the camera, which is telling me it's recording. The low light capability of this camera is what sets this camera apart, even when compared to the Cineline Sony cameras. But I'm very excited about this, getting back into a video camera. They're just better. But of course, my first video camera wasn't actually a video camera, it was a film camera. I got myself a Leica Super 8 camera with interchangeable lenses, and following that wanted to go the sound route, because of course that was a silent camera, and bought myself a Beaulieu. Beaulieu was made by a French company called Ingenieux, which makes, I think probably still today, makes professional cinema lenses. But anyway, I used this rather odd looking video camera. And when video came along, my first video camera was called a Sony Video 8, and it was a very rudimentary video camera. And in fact, those of you who have seen my video, when we got married 30 years later, we released our wedding video onto YouTube. That was shot mostly with this Video 8 camera. It's called Professional. It wasn't even close to television quality. But for a handheld device that we could carry around, it was my first foray into video. Then along came a format called DV Cam, and I bought one of the very early Panasonic DV Cam cameras, kind of tubular in shape, and it was really, really very, very good, but limited because it was an amateur camera. I couldn't fit lenses onto it, and I couldn't adapt it, and it was my first foray into digital video. From analog video, like VHS is analog video, now we went digital DV, digital video cam. But this still wasn't broadcast quality. I had the Canon XL1 and XL2. I also had a small little compact Canon DV cam camera that I actually used as the only piece of equipment on my first solo trip crossing the Kalahari. Again, it was like my first DV cam. It was limited, but it was small, compact, very easy to use, very limited low light performance, but it was really an amateur camera, and I found myself using this in a professional situation, because my first crossing the Kalahari wasn't even meant for a TV show. I was just documenting it, and it turned out to be, and it's part of my feature film, Crowd the Kalahari. That footage is included in it. I then progressed from that And when Canon announced that they were making high-def cameras, it was their first high-def camera, and it wasn't actually high definition. It was 1440 by 1080. It was interlaced. For those of you who don't know, interlaced, if you have a look at it, the frame scans, and you can see interlaced footage by these lines, quite evident here. And after I'd made my series in 2009, I was approached by the TV channel, and they were looking for high-def content. And I said, yes, I've done this in high-def. And they said, no, that's not high-def. That's HDV. High-def is a larger frame than that. And so I was fooled by these people calling this high definition. It's not high definition. And so soon after that, bought the camera that I then used in my trip to Angola, Botswana, which is of course the Sony EX3 camera. And the last time I had an editing room as good as this was probably in the home that I had before I left South Africa in 2013. Nothing close to that. And that too I built myself. And with the new camera, I just so want to get out and do a trip and just use it. It's such an amazing tool. And now, several weeks later, and I've used it a lot, I'm so excited about the creative possibilities that this camera opens up to me. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe and click the notifications bell so you don't miss our weekly videos.